work that got approved through COVID and whatnot over the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's actually millions and millions of dollars. And some of it, like the hotel and some of the other major projects, probably would not have come here unless preservation had done this work for years before. And you know, people talk about making a contribution and helping the Hudson economy. I think we did all right. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Phil, for saying that, because it is extremely important. You're absolutely right. The quality of the work that's coming to Hudson is in part because we have a preservation commission, and the quality of the work is coming to the historic districts that we participate in.
Yes.
And just as we will at some point be having a discussion, I think, about Shiloh Baptist Church and it not being in an historic district, and just as we are now discussing the radio tower or the cell towers and so forth.
Right.
I think we have a case to make that that the historic districts should be expanded, and they should be expanded there's an element of social justice that should be included in our discussion about expanding our historic districts. I know that's not on the agenda, but I had to get it out.
You know, Chip, it should be on the agenda in every meeting. Yeah. Because what's happening, because the districts are defined within strict boundaries, is that there are weird anomalies occurring as people try to solve problems through the other commissions without HPC. I mean, basically there's subdivisions, for example, taking place, which essentially is moving property out of the historic district, depending on where the boundary is, as one example. Or the stuff that we're going to talk about today, the cell tower. Because Hudson is not one historic district, because it's all chopped up, people take advantage of putting in incongruous stuff where they can get away with it, and yet it has a very real presence and visual impact on the historic district. And people are not coming here for tourism to look at a cell tower. They can do that at home. So the fact that the historic districts are a carve out, which I'm sure made sense in 2006, it was a huge accomplishment, is really going to stop making sense, and has stopped making sense for a while. But we'll get to that.
I also think what Chip was saying about the social justice component is really important, because we're essentially continuing the split between south of Warren and north of Warren in terms of the affluence of the communities and all of that, and saying that, you know, affluent architecture is important and working class architecture is not important. And I think, you know, there's a legitimate fear on the part of the public that their costs of keeping up their homes is going to be a lot higher if they're in an historic district. And it comes back to what we said before about communicating, because there may be, yes, vinyl windows are cheaper than wooden windows, but generally speaking, we don't impose huge financial burdens on people. And we do encourage them to preserve the quality of their buildings.
And simply look at the real estate value in areas of Hudson that are protected by the Historic Preservation Commission, and those areas that are not protected. And those areas that are not protected by the Historic Preservation Commission have less value. That real estate has less equity, less value than those that are protected.
Well, and it limits the opportunity for multi-generational wealth.
Correct.
Multi-generational wealth through real property, and that's vastly diminished. But we got to get to that another day. It's a huge subject. Yeah. Thank you for jumping in, everybody. it's been on my mind since the Columbia Street property came up. Wasn't it so strange that this property shouldn't have been protected from the get-go?
Yes.
But that's the deal. Anyway, meeting's called to order. Thank everybody for being here. We have a long list of C of A votes. What I don't know if you have it handy, everybody. If you have your minutes handy, it's really worth, if you haven't had a chance to look, it's really worth taking 5 minutes now to take a scan. You know, Erin did a spectacular job, and within the minutes, you're going to find the contingencies, as well as some less formal dialogue with the owner or contractor that has implication for these Cs of A. So just take a minute to get comfortable with your minutes, and then we can go back through the C of A votes, if you don't mind. I'm going to step away for a second because I have a puppy who's screaming in the other room. This is Bob, everyone. You wanted to say good morning? He said good morning. I'm going to remove him. Okay, apologies. Are we all on the same page? Have you guys had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yep.
Way cool. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Miranda?
Thanks, Miranda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Erin, can you hear me? I need to ask you a favor.
Yes.
So because we have so many C of A votes, if you could just keep track of who's present and who's not, so we do the right thing, which is we're obligated to mail these to folks whether they're in the meeting or not. I just want to be sure I guess we got to mail it to everyone. Forgive me. I had gone back into the old world. Let's go to 34 South Front Street then.
Shut off again. Hello. Hello, we're here.
Oh, terrific. Who's speaking?
Wolfgang Stockmeyer.
Okay, so we had a general agreement on the project, and there were two issues, I believe. There was an ask that the door be wood.
Yes.
Rather than some other material. And there were questions raised or concern about the windows towards the back porch area of the house, which were originally spec'd as vinyl.
Yes.
And I believe you've come up with a wood solution using screens.
Yes. Yeah, just instead of those windows, we put in screens and wood frames, and they visually cover everything up, basically what lies behind.
Okay, so
And yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We added also spec for a wooden door.
I wasn't able to, in my whatever, I didn't get everything out, but I vouch to you guys that the screens are wood.
Yes.
The door is wood, and those were our two asks that were contingent on our ability to approve the C of A. So unless there are further questions or comments, I recommend that we go forward. Cool.
Chairman, the
yeah.
C of A that was drafted said that the applicant had to return for windows. That was based on the discussion last week or 2 weeks ago. So I would cross that out.
Okay.
Make it clear that the new windows are being approved.
To be clear, they're not windows, they're screens, and they're wood framed.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're good to go on that. Thank you very much, Victoria.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I had a last minute conversation with Wolfgang, hoping that we could sort it out for the meeting, and I should have recorded that better. May I have a motion to approve 34 South Front Street, C of A, as prepared by the city attorney? Anyone at all?
Motion.
That's your hand up. And who else would like to put their hand up? I can see you. Chip, thank you so much. Firsted and second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Ayes.
Aye.
Opposed. Did I hear a nay or just a noise? Okay. Motion's approved. So Wolfgang,
Yeah.
I will mail this to you. And Craig will have a copy as quickly as I get it stamped and so on. So we're done, and thank you very much for working with us on this.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Jason, I see you're here representing 326 Union Street.
Yes, sir.
So the issue there with the porch railing, and it was really about the material. And as a consequence of the material, we were proposing that there was a question of appropriateness. The meeting, initially, Jason had felt that he could go forward with wrought iron, which was what we were asking for. On further consideration, he felt he could not, and wanted to go back to the original proposal of using steel powder coating and so on. Jason, is that correct? Do you want to talk about what's up?
Absolutely. Thank you for.
Excuse me, Jason.
Yes,
Jason, would you please rephrase what Phil just said? I'm getting static from Carol Lint, and I couldn't hear all of Phil's comments.
Absolutely.
If Jason, you could just address that, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. Phil, is it possible if you could give me authority to share when I do introduce Joshua, who's the gentleman that made the steel railing for us? I wanted to be able to show the pictures that we took as well.
Sure, Jason, I'm vastly incompetent, but city in its wisdom has given us a young guy, Shaheem, who's brilliant at this stuff, and he's on the line. If you want Joshua Campetta to be opened up, he can do that.
Excellent. So I, during the last meeting, the material that was discussed, just out of the thought that that was common material and that would not be a problem for us to move forward with the material that you requested. And so the gentleman, Joshua Campetta, who's on the line with us, and I'll introduce him in a moment, I made a request of him to change the material to the wrought iron or the rod iron. And he sent back an email to me, and then we had a further conversation about educating me about wrought iron and rod iron, how that that iron or steel is not used commonly any longer. It's actually mild steel that is used on a regular basis. And that he also informed me that 342 Allen Street, which was the property that we based our design on, is actually a mild steel. It's not a wrought iron. And so based on this information, and then I asked him to also look into for me though, if we wanted to get wrought iron, please look into that for us, because we were fine with the decision to move forward with that. The other thing that prompted me to send information back to Phil was the cost. It was extremely not cost effective. In fact, the closest place that Joshua was able to find that does this type of work was in England. And he had a conversation with them about the design that he had, and also what this would take for them to proceed with this type of material. And it's not a request that they have gotten much as well, but they're able to do it, but it's really not cost effective. And plus the fact of shipping it overseas. So this is what prompted me to come back to the committee and discuss this issue about mild steel versus wrought iron. I did bring in Joshua Competa because this is his skill set, and I wanted him to be able to speak to this. And if the commission is okay, I'd like to introduce him and let him talk a little bit about the differences and the history of wrought iron versus mild steel, if that's okay.
Absolutely. And I want to participate in the conversation as someone who's actually done repair on wrought iron fence pretty recently with a vendor up in Schenectady.
Okay, great.
Not England exactly. So, but Joshua, go ahead.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm not sure where you found wrought iron in Schenectady. I definitely could not.
Company is called Sweat and Sweat, SWETT and SWETT.
Okay.
And they actually forge their own stuff, but keep on going.
Okay. Well, when asked to do this railing, I was going to do it the same as the house on Allen Street. So I went and looked at it, took some measurements, checked everything out, and that's what I did. But everything nowadays is made of regular mild carbon steel. And that's what I made it out of. That's what that railing is. And that's what everybody uses today. I mean, working with wrought iron is not a very common thing at all anymore. And I don't, even just looking at the two materials, they're very similar. For most people to walk down the street and to look, they wouldn't know the difference. That's my take on it. These are the rails that, can you guys see the pictures of the handrails?
Yes.
I can.
Those are the rails that I made. And they're really clean. They look really good. They're all powder coated. Most people wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between that and old school wrought iron. The only difference really is wrought iron is just that. It's 100% iron. Today, it's mild steel. It's basically wrought iron, but they add carbon to it to make it stronger. That's really the only difference.
I mean, I'm just one opinion. Does it matter that much to us? Like, is it hollow or is it solid?
They're solid. It's all solid.
I think the question you ask about solid versus hollow is really the essence of what we may have been talking about at the last meeting. Mm-hmm. And the term wrought iron is probably one that should be clarified. Yeah. I think that the difference of what we were trying to discuss at the last meeting was the difference between solid steel and tubular steel. Mm-hmm. And what I think we were concerned about at the last meeting was the use of hollow steel. That is a tubular steel rather than something that is solid. Okay. And I think that the difference between wrought iron, which would be something that would be hand forged, hand built, that is the old school, but I think that that kind of basically it's, you know, hand forged with a completely different construction technique than the mild steel, which can be welded and ground and painted. So I think maybe our language disconnect is the difference between hollow tube and solid steel.
Well, the rails I made are 100% solid. I would agree. I wouldn't use tubular myself because it collects moisture inside. Eventually it rusts and it falls apart. So solid is definitely the way to go. Much better material.
And if I may just...
Also, let me ask you, Joshua, a question about the use of solid steel as stainless steel. When the stainless steel is put into a stone tread, I know we're working with a wood tread here, but part of the problems with mild steel in a when it's inserted into stone is that it rusts and it spalds and it causes the stone to split.
Yes.
Have you experienced with using a stainless steel stem into stone to resist that spalding and damage to the stone?
Yeah, the steel is swelling, rusting and swelling because it's collecting moisture. Even if you paint the steel or have it powder coated, most times it does have moisture inside of it. And over time, over years, it will rust and expand, and that's what's happening to your stone. Stainless doesn't really do that because even though it has moisture in it, it won't rust. So, you know, you won't have those same problems at all. Stainless would be much better for going in concrete as far as, you know, that goes.
Thank you. I just asked that question to be for you to inform the commission about some of those construction techniques. I know it's not exactly part of this application, but obviously you have experience and you've made some beautiful rails. So I just wanted to ask you that question.
I mean, steel is okay to put in concrete. I've done that plenty of times, but it lasts quite a number of years, but over time, eventually it will rust and expand. So.
Good. Ladies and gents, if everyone's comfortable that we've asked and been well answered, may I have a motion to approve the C of A for 356 Union Street as prepared by the city attorney?
And again, we're changing, in this case, we're going to change wrought iron to solid steel.
Correct.
We could say solid mild steel if that helps to the definition in any way, but I think it's also important that we have in our approval that it is to be painted.
Okay.
That's part of the finish of the application.
Done. I gotta tell you, this is, I'm really, really pleased that this came up and we worked through a resolution with a definition because it will come up on other properties again. And this gives us a framework. So I thank Jason and company for working with us on this. Anyway, back to motion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I so move.
And second, please.
Second.
Miranda, thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay, unanimous. Thank you very much. 94 North 5th Street.
Oh, Josh, can you stop sharing your screen?
Please. Terrific. Okay. The issue here, I think, was slate was being used in a sense to hold some bits in place, and the applicant agreed that the slate would be used in such a way or kept in such a way that it was relatively invisible. Does that sound like a correct understanding? Yes. Other than that, it was a straight up EBOM roof that was being installed. Is the applicant here? No worries. City Attorney Victoria, you comfortable with what we have in the C of A? I'm not looking at it in front of me, but the notion was that we would hide, disguise, or otherwise not have that slate material.
So then I think I should add that in as a condition.
It is a condition that was agreed that the slate that was there was going to be hidden or disguised as much as possible.
Okay, adding it in.
May I have a motion then? I'll make the motion. I move to approve 94 North 5th Street, C of A as prepared by the city attorney. Second, please. Anyone?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone? None opposed. Unanimous. Thank you. 41 West Court Street, fence. And I don't see any issues or concerns in the minutes. I'm going to make the motion to approve 41 West Court Street, C of A as prepared by the city attorney. Second, please. Bless you.
Thank you.
Philip, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Approved. 826 Union Street, a fence. I see nothing troubling in the minutes that we raised as an issue, unless anyone else does. I'm going to make a motion to approve the fence at 826 Union Street. Second, Hugh, you can.
Second.
Well done. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. 102 Union Street. And I'm just going to take a quick peek at the minutes to see if there are any issues or concerns. I don't see anything. I'll make the motion to approve 102 Union Street, C of A as prepared by the city attorney. May I have a second, please? Anybody? Hugh.
Second.
Good job again. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No one? Unanimous. Thank you very much. 118 North 5th Street.
So Chairman?
Yes.
I did not prepare a C of A, I don't believe, for 118 North 5th Street because I believe they were a no-show at the last meeting.
Oh, you're right. Right. I wonder if I got the numbers wrong because I have an application indicated here for 17 North 4th Street. No? Arthur will pass.
No, Phil, you're right. 17 North 4th, a new application. 118, I don't think was here last meeting.
Okay, so they're out of pocket 2 times.
See you next month.
All right, they're going to be July. Got it. Thanks very much, Craig. 307 Warren. So this was expansion of a deck, wooden structure, and there were no issues. I'll make a motion to approve the C of A as prepared by the city attorney for 307 Warren. We need a new person. Miranda, excellent. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Anyone? No. Done. 452 East Allen Street. Were there any issues or concerns folks recall on this application?
This one was conditioned on removal of the Victorian brackets from the southeast elevation.
Thanks very much, Attorney Polidoro. That I was trying to avoid using Victoria and Victorian in the same sentence. Sorry. Hence, Attorney Polidoro, you're absolutely right. The commission architect had proposed that the brackets were inappropriate and should come off. Any other issues? Good. I'm going to make a motion to approve then 452, including the agreement with the owner, with the applicant, that the brackets would come off. May I have a second, please? John Schobel, you haven't seconded anything in a while. What do you think? John seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No one? Unanimous. 542 Union Street. I don't see any concerns. I will make the motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 542 Union Street as prepared by the city attorney. Second, please. Anyone? Chip, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. There was one I missed on the agenda, which is the big project at 620 Union. City attorney pointed out that fact to me this morning. Victoria, do you want to talk about what you did with that?
Sure. Let me check it back up. When the hotel project came before you last time, they made their presentation, but everyone was in agreement that there was not enough detailed information for the board to consider a certificate of appropriateness. But they were looking for some positive feedback so that they felt comfortable going to the next level and preparing those plans. A second issue is that this project is not a type 2 project and does require seeker review. And we should probably coordinate with the planning board on that review. So at this time, what I've prepared is a preliminary memorandum, and I can pull it up. You should have had it in your email, but let me pull it up. Okay, hold on. Share screen. Okay, so basically this says it's a preliminary memorandum regarding a C of A, and that the HPC held a public hearing. All those who wish to speak were heard. The project plans are conceptual, do not include the level of detail required for decision. Seeker has also not been completed. The HPC therefore issues this preliminary memorandum to indicate that the HPC does not object to the project concept, including massing of buildings, so that the applicant may proceed with the development of detailed project plans. And then it requires the applicant to return for a C of A once they have more detailed plans.
That works
I think
for
that's
us.
great.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's really
Victoria.
excellent.
That was a perfect solution. I think so too. Thank you so much, Victoria. That was nice. I'll make a motion to approve the in effect memorandum of support as prepared by the city attorney. Second, Paul. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
None. Unanimous. Thanks everyone, and thank you again, Victoria.
Thanks, Victoria.
We have two, I believe, new C of A applications, and I hope folks are here. I don't remember. I think 17 North 4th Street is a sign. Do we have the applicant present for 17 North 4th Street? Craig, have you heard from the applicant, or did they indicate they wouldn't be able to come to the meeting?
I haven't. Only what I sent you. I thought I'd seen her name on here, but I don't see it.
Could she have stepped aside? Well,
it's Kathleen Dunn.
Yeah, it's Kathleen Dunn, and let me see if I can find her. I'll be right back.
Cool. Thank you very much. We should move on then to 324 Warren Street. Is the applicant or someone representing the applicant here from 324 Warren?
Yes, I am.
Who's speaking?
Carol Lent.
Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Sorry, the camera was cutting you off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. Is that better?
Much better.
Okay.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Carol. So do you go ahead and present your project?
There's a dormer on the rear of 324 Warren Street that you can see in Prison Alley. My feeling about the dormer is, well, I guess we have to backtrack a little bit. Underneath that dormer are, I get vents, or I guess, well, I don't know. They probably were vents, my feeling is, from the Jersey Bakery. And they must have been vents from their baking equipment. Eventually, when they stopped using the bakery equipment, they must have built that dormer over those huge vents. They capped them off and built this dormer over these vents.
Carol, would you be able to upload your application so we can take a look at the visuals while you're talking?
I can. They're on the computer I'm using. I'm wondering if I do that, if I will cut you off.
I don't think so.
Okay, let me.
You have to press, you have to pull them up, and then you'd click on share screen at the bottom.
Okay.
Also, I think there's something with your microphone.
I'm sorry, let me go back. Can you hear me better, Victoria? Or not as well? Is it
scratchy,
better?
but we can understand you.
It's really bad static. Your voice is clear sort of through the static, but the static's huge.
Leave computer audio.
Okay.
Is it any better?
No,
I'm sorry.
Very strong.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna look and see if I can find. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can get the application for you.
Okay, that would be great.
Here, hold on.
Do you have it, Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just download it. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to explain?
If you scroll up a little bit, you'll see I took some pictures inside the attic where you see these huge vents that are right underneath where that dormer is. You may have to scroll up a little bit more. See? It's a series of venting that comes out through where this dormer is. There was never a window there. There's just plywood over where a window was. Or I shouldn't say was, we didn't see any evidence of anything being framed out for a window. And the venting, I'm assuming for these bakery ovens, went out right in that area. And eventually, I guess after the Jersey Bakery left, somebody took all that venting out. They capped off where those vents were, and they built that dormer over where those vents were. And I guess that, they never had any leaking up until the last few years. And Seal-Rite, Brian Herman had Seal-Rite there to try to go up to stop the leaking over the last year, probably 3 or 4 times. But they can't stop the water from going in that area, and it's penetrating that first floor ceiling. And now it's going down into where we just put the bakery. So my only solution is to get rid of that dormer and then re-shingle that whole area and close it all off again. I don't know if there's any historic significance to that. I'm not sure when that dormer was put up. Although if you scroll down here, you can see a little bit, but over there, but I'm not sure that that was a dormer. That's the only photograph that I have.
Okay. Carol, can you describe what you're planning? You're just closing it off, or their material?
We're gonna completely remove that dormer. We're gonna completely remove this dormer, and then there's brown shingles that we can match, and we're just gonna shingle the roof. That's it. And re-sheetrock inside.
It sounds like you sort of have to. Go ahead.
Are we taking comments? I think we should.
It looks like she's got to do this.
Yeah, get rid of that dormer. I don't think unless somebody else disagrees. It certainly isn't contributing to any aspect of the building that's worth preserving. So I'd say let them do it.
Move ahead.
I agree.
Yes.
All right, great. It'll look better when it's gone, and it'll look more.
Get rid of the dormer. No dormer.
No dormer.
We hate dormers.
There's no window. I can't find any pictures, and it was always plywood. Again, I'm only making this. It's circumstantial, but it mustn't have been there when the bakery had the vents going up, right, for their ovens. Somebody did it later on, but I can't tell you when.
Okay. A motion to approve, a motion to find the, I have a motion to find the application complete. I'll make that motion. May I have a second, please?
No dormer.
Hugh, second on complete. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. May I have a motion to waive a public hearing and ask the city attorney to prepare a certificate of appropriateness 4324 Warren Street project. I'll make that motion. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Chip, thank you so much. All in favor?
Opposed?
Aye. None. Unanimous. City attorney will prepare a C of A that will be available in 2 weeks. Carol, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry about the audio.
Not at all. That is, go ahead, please.
This is Craig. Rachel Simone or Sanzone, I believe, is going to be signing on for that 17 North 4th sign.
Okay, great. Let's wait.
She's muted.
Rachel, unmute.
Unmuted. Okay. Hello.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So do you have a visual you could upload or we could help you with so we can see the sign you're proposing?
I sent it in with my application, but I have a paper printout. It's very simple. So
I can do it.
Pull that up.
Attorney Polidoro is going to upload it for you.
Okay.
Buttercup?
Buttercup. Mm-hmm. So it's just simple lettering with a white background. And I also think I added where it would be affixed on the building. It's where every other sign has gone on the building before.
Okay.
You can kind of see the phantom letters.
Same location, and it looks like you already have a permit from Craig. So there's nothing on the specification we need to be concerned about because that's been done.
Okay. I do have a question though. When talking to Craig, and this isn't part of my application, this is just coming up with our thought process because this is kind of happening quickly. When talking to Craig about code, he mentioned that there's only allowance for one sign per face of the building. And we're running up with a problem because the way the business is set up is it's all outside. So it's like a concession stand would be. You would come up to a window, no one would be entering the building. So we're having an issue figuring out how we can show a menu that isn't on that same face of the building. And I'm wondering if there's any way to have a variance granted, or if there was a size limitation that we could put some sort of signage up, as you see to the left, on the very left, where there's a 90-degree angle where that other portion of the building juts out to the left of the awning. That's where we simply would put something. And that's technically 2 signs on one face. I don't know how else to go around it though.
Craig, are you on?
Yes.
What you think?
Well, if it's a code issue where they're looking for more than what the code says, there is a variance process, but that's not here. That'll go through the zoning board.
Okay.
If you're, like I explained to you before, if you're proposing a sign or more than one sign that's not approvable by code, this board has no jurisdiction over that. That would be either my office or the variance process through the zoning board.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I still want to go forward with this process with the Buttercup, but the other one, maybe we can talk further about it.
Okay.
If it's at a right angle, wouldn't that be a different face of the building?
Well, the code does say that one business on a corner building can have more than one sign, but obviously it has to be in both, both parts of the corner. I don't know how it will work here with the alleyway, and it may be a new item. I don't know until it was just a conversation, until I actually see some type of rendering or a presentation of it. I don't know how to deal with that.
Sure.
And more importantly, if it's a menu item, it may be something of a temporary nature as well, where you can put it up, take it down, whatever the case may be. If you don't permanently affix it, then that's just my approval. So I think, Rachel, in all honesty, we should probably have a more in-depth conversation regarding this.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is kind of evolving because we're just like trying to get this together quickly. But we can definitely talk about that at a later date or time.
If that'll sort out, then Rachel, congratulations on Buttercup.
Thank you.
Bring her through our voting process. I'll make a motion to find the application complete. Please, anyone at all need a slight can. All in favor? Aye. Application is deemed complete. Does motion to close the application and ask the city attorney to prepare a C of A. I'll make that motion. 1 second, please. Philip, seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Unanimous. Rachel, thank you so much. I know you put time into this, and
okay, thank you.
Okay. Correspondence. And I think I saw Sam Semchenko on she had sent some mail to me, and I want her to speak, but I want to say something a little bit up front. It is well, we were talking about this before. It's getting stranger and stranger that the historic district is in effect a series of carve-outs within different parts of the city, primarily the south side and a small section on the north side. And yet, if you want to talk about pedestrian experience or impact, or for that matter, protecting the value of people's property, including within the historic district, the weird thing is that you move 1 block over and kind of anything goes. And I'm finding that more and more disturbing. Victoria and I spoke this morning, and she suggested that I at least start with an informal conversation with Betsy Gramko, who chairs planning, and that we talk about just that, that these historic delineations are unhelpful to moving Hudson forward. Anyway, Sam, do you want to talk about your communication with us regarding the 5G cell tower on the roof of Providence Hall?
Hi, Phil. Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, yes. Well, my concerns, as I expressed in my letter, are primarily health concerns. and, which are shared by people like, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his Children's Health Defense Organization. There have been no human studies underscoring the safety of these cell towers. But there have been countless animal and empirical studies of humans showing that the health effects of 4 and 5G are real. So from the get-go, my concerns were primarily health concerns, but also from the perspective of your committee and just general zoning concerns. The proposed placement of these towers on Prison Alley, which is, as far as I could tell from the last filed document as far as delineating what constitutes the historic district down here, right on Prison Alley, to have these giant towers on top of the building is kind of absurd. So I just wanted to raise a red flag that this was something that was in front of the planning committee, and definitely wanted you folks to weigh in with your opinions, and please stop this this proposal, because on so many levels it's not a good idea. And from what I've learned also, once you open the door to one telecommunications company, it's sort of free range, and they can come in with more and more towers, and that's not what we want down here. But especially, I mean, with all the population down here, it's just putting everybody at risk for cancer and among other things. I don't know if I put it in my letter or not, but the International Agency on Research on Cancer, IARC, is trying to move 4 and 5G exposure up in their list of likely human carcinogens. So that said, I think that's enough. We really don't want this in our downtown area with our population.
Sam, that's great. Thank you. I just want to make a comment. I understand a little bit about this technology. I understand why they need some height. I understand why they want to have unobstructed line of sight to the communities on the other side of the river. But there are many, many places not far from us that are not smack in the middle of one of the highest density population areas in the county that would provide height, that would provide line of sight, that would not intrude on our historic district, and if Sam is correct, would not injure people. That what they did was the easiest solution, where they thought they wouldn't run into any resistance because they were probably aware that the folks in Providence Hall are not necessarily rich folks who feel entitled to push back. I think what they're doing is wrong, but what the hell?
So just a few things. The city attorney has told me this is not a 5G tower, that it's just plain old 4G. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't seen the application, but that's what I'm being told. Second, under federal law, you guys are not allowed to consider the impacts of health. That's not a relevant issue when you talk about location of the tower. And so when we talked about this a little bit last time, as a board, as the HPC, you can certainly weigh in and provide comments on why you think the location's inappropriate given impact on the historic district and historic resources. But I would stay away from the health impacts, because it's not something anyone will consider, and they'll just write your comments off.
I completely agree. It's not, we shouldn't opine at all on whether or not there's a health impact. It's not our expertise or jurisdiction. We should opine on whether this affects the quality and appearance of our historic district.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a drawing? I feel like we saw this once before, Phil, a while ago.
It was several years ago.
And we didn't love it then either.
I don't think they've applied yet.
Okay.
So,
but it
make a comment.
I'll figure out how we get some. Go ahead. Who is speaking? Yep.
This is Craig.
Oh, Craig. I'm sorry.
Just want to remind that this application, and I believe Victoria is well aware as well, is in front of the planning board, And this particular building was asked of me, it is not in the historic district, so I don't know where that weighs in as well. I just want to kind of remind everybody of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so Craig, understanding that, I was advising the board that they will not have jurisdiction over the application, but as members of the public, they can weigh in and provide the planning board with comments if they wanted to.
Yep.
And are we allowed to, I know we don't have jurisdiction over it, but can we make a comment on it as a commission about how it will affect the historic district visually?
You certainly can vote to do that and send a memo from the commission. But again, it would be received just as any public comment letter would be received.
Right.
Right, but better from the I mean, maybe it will be more valued than as individuals. So I completely think, and Victoria, you've offered that to us in other areas. I think that's exactly what we should do. And we need to draft something, vote on and approve them.
Okay.
I agree completely that we as a commission should weigh in on this. We understand the limitations of it not being in the district and so forth, but I think, or any district, but I think that in our comments, we should say that this is not only does this affect the historic districts, but it also affects all of Hudson. And that's something that we are weighing against.
Mm-hmm.
We're not.
Victoria, you told us that when we were talking about the large housing project. That was the other. I'm sorry, I was trying to remember when we could. So we have two really before us. I'm sorry, Chip. I thought you were done. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So we should do that. We have a better sense of. And I think the truth is this: the fact that the addresses aren't within the district doesn't mean that the sight lines are not. And I think that's how we have to frame this. You could very easily affect our district with things that are not technically under our jurisdiction. And I think, and there must be, by the way, we're not the first ones to deal with this. Probably we're not the first ones to deal with a large tower from highly visible from an historic district, right? Like we should perhaps look at that.
Certainly Olana has dealt with this in terms of towers.
I was going to say that, yeah. The whole view shed thing going on.
Yeah, I think we can make comment about that. I mean, there is precedent for, and it may not be perfectly legal, it may not be structurally, enforceable, but the city of Hudson has a view shed. It's an important part of our community, and it needs to be considered and evaluated.
May I just say one thing also, just insofar as the establishment of the tower? Once, you're absolutely correct in that there was no specification for 5G, but what the companies do is they will insert 4G and then they will upgrade accordingly. And this has been the pattern that has been reported, again, by the Children's Health Defense and other committees, other organizations, pardon me. Once a tower is built, then it's, upgraded according to the telecommunications company.
Great.
At their, discretion. So yes, it doesn't have to specify 5G, but it definitely, that's on the agenda, I'm sure.
And they have a great deal of control over those towers once they're built. I mean, the utilities that control them. It's kind of frightening, really.
It is, and part of that is never mind.
Listen, look, I can't do. I would say. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, this is Craig. I will add into, as far as these upgrades, and you're exactly right, but we still require permittable upgraded through the permit process, and they would have to go back to the planning board. We just don't allow them to do it. And if they do it, and if we find out, then they will be issued violations. So we deal with that a lot with the hospital. They genuinely upgrade theirs, and they would have to go, if it was in a situation like this, they would have to go back for a board approval. So we do keep an eye on that.
I think, Craig, that's a terrific point to be made. Maybe it's not made by us, but certainly made by others. And the point that Phil made earlier is this: if we make it difficult on them, they will go someplace else. They're here because it's easy.
That's right.
And if we don't make it easy on them, they'll find another place.
Exactly.
Just stepping in a little bit though, because I've been dealing with cell towers in a lot of communities. They do these RF analyses, these radio frequency analyses. They find the gaps and then they try to fill them. And so if they have a gap that needs to be filled, even local zoning is going to be hard to prevent that because they have separate use variance standards. I mean, the law is really weighted in favor of building these things. So the question is going to be that if there's a gap, where else can this go in the city that would fill that gap without having such an impact on the historic districts?
Well, that would be a great question for them to answer for us, but this is not that place. So I think I would state what Victoria advised us to do, or gave us as an option, that we really focus on the appropriateness of dropping a cell tower within the sightline of our historic district. We remind everyone that the historic district is what Hudson is about, and that we don't contemplate where they're going to put it next, and we don't contemplate whether or not it's a health problem. Those are not our concerns. We have a concern about where they're going to put it and the impact on our magnificent, beautiful historic district, or something along those lines. And let's draft something in consensus.
I accept that as a motion. I second it. I'd like the commission then to vote on the notion that we communicate our objections within the context of our scope, which we think is obviously the district, but the view shed as well.
I'm gonna just step in. Yeah. I suggest that one of the board members take the lead and draft a letter and share it with the board, and then at the next meeting, you guys vote to send that specific letter, because you're going to want to make sure you all agree on the wording.
Victoria, do you know the timing on this when it comes up in front of planning?
I don't.
Okay. There may be some time urgency. I guess we can find out. Philip, would you be interested in drafting something?
Real quick, Phil, to interrupt you. The next planning board meeting will be July 14th. So you have one more meeting before that.
Great.
But have they submitted an application yet, Craig?
No, they were doing, they actually submitted something to Jeff Baker. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like one of these workshop presentation type things. That's the only thing I got. And Jeff has really been the one that's been dealing with that. And I don't know, I think it's going to be you now, from what I understand, right?
Lucky me.
Yeah, good luck.
Look, we should take that advice. Philip, do you feel like you could start something for us to work on?
Yeah, sure.
And then and that's wonderful. Victoria, we could circle it and comment on it and then read it on next time, right? So we can still review it by email collectively.
I think you guys should take some time to wordsmith whatever it is you want to send, and then you vote as a body at the next meeting to authorize sending that particular letter.
That's beautiful. And we shouldn't wait. We shouldn't wait on any.
Tower?
Oh, go ahead.
Are there specs on it? Like,
Well, that's why I was asking. I haven't seen an application, so you might want to wait till we have a draft application. But
we should get the draft going, and we should be ready to launch this, because what you want to do is you want to use it as a rallying cry for the public.
Right. Well, I can do a draft and we can just insert numbers at the last minute, like for height and things like that.
Philip, I'm going to have, I will have coffee with the chairman of planning, Betsy Gramco, this coming week. I'll make it my business to have coffee with her, or distanced coffee or tea or whatever, and I'll get whatever I can get, and I'll get it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May I ask a procedural question about this? Because I think it's a great idea for Phil to draft and for us to circulate. I want to ask Victoria, just legally, I know we have certain restrictions as a board as to when we can group together and when we can talk together. What is the legal ramification of Phil drafting, sending it to the board members, and then responding?
So you shouldn't respond all because then you have a violation of the open meetings law. If Phil sends the letter to the group, everyone can send Phil their comments back individually. And then Phil is just gonna have to decide which ones to incorporate and which ones not to. Or
So-
you take the comments and you have the discussion at the next meeting. But you shouldn't all be on the email, because that's an open meetings law violation.
So can Phil circulate comments from me to others?
I mean, we're getting a little nuanced here. I think you can either send your comments to Phil, and Phil can, for the next meeting, he can put together a compilation of the comments, give it to all the board members, and you can discuss it at the next meeting.
May I ask another question? This
Sure.
restriction of having a collection of our board members, not in a public meeting, is it restricted to a quorum?
Sure, you and Phil could have a phone call. You and Phil could meet over coffee and talk about this.
So it could be three members.
Three of you could meet.
It could be three members meeting together, but we never want to be four members meeting together. Is that correct?
That is correct. You can be
Okay.
less than the quorum, but you don't want to do it. You don't want three and then one person in the hallway and then you switch in and out, because that's,
All right.
That would be sleazy.
it's happened before.
We could do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we got a way forward on that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Victoria.
Last item, I got a request from Reverend Bilkey, the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church. They're applying for a grant from an entity called Sacred Places, not Sacred Sites, which was New York State Preservation League entity that helped the church with the window restoration. And they've asked for a letter of support from the historic preservation. That kind of thing does have serious standing with these types of organizations. They want to know that there is a local preservation law, that there is an entity of people involved in following through on that preservation law, and that the local preservation organization supports the project. So it is material. It's not a minor thing in their capacity to get funding. Any objection? Any thoughts on that? Are you
I think we should do it.
Okay.
Yeah, not only oh, sorry, go ahead. Finish.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the First Presbyterian Church is literally a cornerstone edifice in the historic district of Hudson. It's been the city clock for generations. And I also think it's important that the city and the congregation have really invested in maintaining and restoring that building. They put a huge amount of money into the window. And so I think that it's a project that has already had demonstrated support from the city. Well, and I believe that I think the Historic Preservation Commission actually also supported grants for the restoration of the window.
They did.
So we should reference the fact that we've been supportive of this project for a long time.
That's perfect, Miranda. Thank you. Any other comments? I don't know if we need a motion or not. I'm pretty familiar with what they're looking for, because I played a role on the Friends of the Church for a bunch of years. I'd be happy to draft it, but I'm also open to volunteers. I'll be happy to draft.
Phil, I think you're the candidate to write the letter, and okay. I would make the motion that the board would authorize you to write the letter on our behalf and to issue it.
Okay. Second? I'll second.
In favor of that.
We're done. I don't have any more on the agenda. Craig, is there anything else that you need us to consider?
No, but I will say this. just so everybody's aware, the week of the 10th, I will not be here. I'm on vacation, so all your applications will be to you by the 2nd of July. And I've already informed most of the contractors and so forth in the city. So just so you're aware, I already have a couple new applications for that meeting. I'll get over to you probably Monday. Other than that, no.
Have a good vacation.
Thanks.
Absolutely, Craig. Thank you so much. You've been a rock through all this virus and whatever stuff that we've been doing. So
That would be another question, Phil. Thank you for that. But has there been any conversation of when we might be able to start meeting in public? I know we've been talking about on a city level. Victoria, are you aware of anything that's been decided yet?
So, I mean, I'm not aware of any city conversations. I know that we're expected, I mean, most entities expect to continue social distancing until September. Even though we're allowed, you can always meet in public. It was the city hall that is, the problem is your city hall is a very small room.
Right.
And it makes it difficult to have a properly socially distanced meeting. You don't have a huge auditorium where you can space seats out. And especially when you have full agendas like this, it will become very difficult to have in-person meetings. And even once you can, you have to question whether you're going to be prohibiting maybe immunocompromised and the elderly from participating in those meetings because they may not want to come out even when others feel comfortable. So, you know, to the extent that the governor keeps authorizing the internet meetings, that's, you know, my advice is to keep going with them just to keep it as open as possible for members of the public. But Craig, to answer your question directly, no, I have not heard anything.
Sorry. Sure, I haven't either, so that's why I just figured I'd ask. But okay, great, thanks. Have a good weekend, everybody.
thanks so much for everything, Craig.
Let me suggest one thing. I mean, I think it would be terrific if we could have a public meeting to discuss Shiloh on the 10th. I know that probably can't happen, but
you mean an in-person public meeting?
Yeah, if we could meet publicly, I think that would be, I think it would be terrific. But are we scheduled to have our July 10th meeting as an executive meeting or as a public Zoom meeting? I don't.
All our meetings are public. We had 2 formal public hearings on the application, as well as an extended public comment period. But in the wonderful world of HPC, every day is public. And what I'm concerned about now, Chip, is that the commission as a body has not really had an opportunity to even have a conversation amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And
I'm eager for that.
I'm kind of more concerned about us being together and having a chance to actually talk about what evidence has been presented, what is not. Are we good to go? What is the premise on which we would make the designation? Is the historical cultural element strong enough? Is there an architect? I mean, there's so much for the commission to talk about. I'm happy to have the public listening in.
Yeah.
But I want to carve out time for us to talk to one another.
I agree. 100%. Thank you. Yes.
Also, I will add that if you have legal questions, we can always have an attorney-client session with the public excluded if you have a question that you want answered.
Okay. So that said, there may be people who dial in, log in. I'm cool with that, but I'm not going to tolerate it if we can't talk to one another about this. You guys have not really seen all the stuff that came in. For starters, you know, and Paul Barrett has been putting together a historic file on different issues, and you haven't had a chance to see that. So that's got to happen. That's what I'm thinking. We can adjourn.
How do we actually distribute all of that information since we're not face-to-face in a meeting?
I'll scan and get it to you well beforehand.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain Phil. Thank you.
Yes.
The pleasure.
Have a good weekend.
it's
Take
sort of.
care, everybody. Did we adjourn officially? I guess we did. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes, please make one.
Let's adjourn.
Good. I think we did that. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, guys.
What I said before.
Thank you, Phil.
Done a lot of really important work over the last couple months, so we're cool.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.
Bye.
Bye-bye.